It's Wednesday, the 14th of September, with myself, John McAteer, Eamon McFadden, and Declan Kerr, with our podcast once more. And lots to talk about, lots of things happening. Not much good news. I suppose, first of all, Eamon, our congratulations to a former colleague of yours, Dermot Doherty.
Absolutely, Dermot has just been appointed in a very significant role, I suppose you would say, for he's been the Democrat now for a long, long time.
Do you not think he's too old for that kind of a role?
He's a very young fellow, really. The best days are ahead of him, I would think.
Oh, are they?
Hasn't changed much over the years.
It's a good appointment for. He's been almost 30
in the Democrat.
93, yeah.
93 is when he started there, so he's got 30 years experience now. And he's done a variety of roles. He was a junior reporter to a senior reporter to a news editor, deputy sports editor, deputy news editor. Now, just the announcement came recently that he's been
Career path.
So that's
another level.
Yeah.
He has served a number of esteemed editors over the years. He's bound to have learned something from them.
He would if he had learned something from all of them. Starting out, I think, was John Bromley was his first editor.
Right.
I think that was right. Is that
Jervis, maybe?
Oh, possibly. Jervis,
I don't
Jervis
know.
King, but I know. Yeah, it's gone back. It's fair, and I think he started from memory. I think he started in Letterkenny on a kind of work experience basis, and then when the vacancy came up for the full time job, it was in the Ballyshannon office. And off he took himself down to Ballyshannon, and that was it.
Of course, he's had a big role on Highland Radio. I mean, he is the voice of soccer there.
Yeah.
His commentary, along with Declan Boyle,
It's excellent.
it's quite outstanding.
Yeah.
It's the best sports thing on Highland.
Yeah.
No, like I shouldn't be sitting in judgment on Highland, but I'm sure Caroline will be delighted to hear that.
Right.
But anyway, congratulations to Dermot, and we wish him many happy years and success in his job. We're going to look at a few other things. The Queen's death. We've done an editorial, aren't believe it or not, saying our headline is The Queen's Homage to Irish Rebels, a defining moment. We'll just read out the stand first. During her visit to Ireland in 2011, the Queen won much praise after she laid a wreath and bowed her head in Dublin's Garden of Remembrance to pay homage to the rebels who gave their lives in the cause of Irish freedom in 1916. It was as close as we ever dared expect in an apology for the wrongs of war, famine and partition inflicted over centuries of occupation. Nevertheless, the words, the actions and the symbolism were the catalyst that endeared the Queen to this country's hearts. How close is that to the truth?
It seems to be, John, that you're getting the from what we're listening to, over the last number of days. That 2011 visit was a major milestone in terms of the relationship between the monarchy and I suppose the Irish. It certainly brought it to a different level, and certainly the Queen and the royal family were seen in a much more better light.
Yeah,
But she was herself personally. People, I think for the first time, Irish people actually could distance themselves between the Queen's role and that of the monarchy in their past history. It's a pity that the good work that she perpetrated during that visit, it wasn't continued.
No,
Brexit got in the way of that.
Now, yeah.
The country was not in a good place at that point. We've just had a general election that year. The country was bankrupt. The construction trade had fallen apart. We'd been bailed out for 64 billion euros. Yet we had the Queen and that magnificent visit. Then we had Barack Obama as President of the United States, and relationships between Ireland and the UK were at an all-time high.
Yeah.
I think Brexit, it has taken all those years since Brexit in 2016 to lower the relationship to a level that we've not seen since long before the Good Friday Agreement.
Yeah, that's it. And
And that's the unfortunate thing.
And
But the Queen's legacy and the Queen's history, it's well worth recounting. When you look at the outpouring of grief and the huge crowds that have turned out right across the UK since she died last Thursday, was it?
Thursday.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there's going to be probably 500-600 dignitaries at the funeral service in Westminster on Monday, and I suppose we're getting a very clear, very, very, very clear, positive view of the esteem in which she has held. But the fact that she's been there for 70 years, this generation will never see anything like that ever again.
No.
But I think one of the big questions that's going to be asked is, will that respect for the royal family continue with King Charles III? I can't see it.
there seems to be a lot of sort of doubt over how the baton's going to be handed over and how
What
that's
that
going
means,
to
eh?
continue. Yeah. You know,
But you see, the Queen lived through a huge period of change. In fact, the market, even now, he's going to be anointed as the defender of the faith, and that is the Church of England. Not all the other hundreds of faiths that's in the UK and that's part of the Commonwealth. Like all of that is long since outdated. You know that you're only defender of one faith. You should be defender of all faith or none. And apparently he would have wished to have changed that a number of years ago, and that was shut down. So, I mean, it's a multi-ethnic, multicultural society, multi-religious society right across the Commonwealth, but especially the UK.
Very diverse.
It is so diverse that I suppose the whole monarchy is light years behind in its thinking. You know, it's very stilted, it's very stale, but it's crafted of 1,000 years, dating back that far. You know, it's only in the last couple of hundred years that the monarchy could be sure that they weren't going to end up being beheaded, or like Henry VIII's wives. You know.
yeah.
You know, those things are all very much in focus these days.
I suppose
in
another
this
thing,
week, you know.
just on top of all that, there is that, you know, is you have a new king, but you also have a new prime minister as well, and that's somebody who's the architect of this current situation in the north. You know, and that's going to be a different dynamic as well when all this the thing about the Queen settles down, which it will do in the coming weeks after she's laid rest on Monday.
Yeah.
I know it might be unfair, but just looking at her amongst the rest of the MPs in the House of Commons paying tribute on Friday, she was very, very nondescript. Very, very nondescript. She probably made one of the most weakest comments of all in her tribute piece. Keir Starmer was a million miles ahead of her. So was everybody else. And you just wonder how long will she last, or how long can she last. But I mean, that's all for another day. There's going to be, I don't know how many millions going to be queuing around Westminster for the lying in state.
And I wonder how many millionaires are going to cost the state. And
The royal family's worth billions. I mean, Prince Charles from the Duchy of Cornwall alone pays them a stipend of 21 million a year.
Annual revenue,
Annual
mostly
revenue.
from rents, isn't it?
Frightening, yeah. Big hotels.
Rents and department stores and all this kind of stuff. All that sort of wealthiest
All of
part
that-
of London is where they have
The whole UK will come to a complete standstill on Monday. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. We will move on to something. What else is in the news? The energy crunch. Are we going to pay more for our electricity? Should we be asked to pay more for our electricity? Because this is very much on the cards.
we're going to be paying more for it anyway. That's the reality, no matter what caps or anything else or comes in. So,
that ship has sailed. I think.
You know, I can't see the purpose in any of this. I simply can't see the purpose of it. Because as things now stand, between now and Christmas time, particularly heading up into November and December, we may well be short on a rolling basis. Could be 180 to 220,000 homes without electricity at any given time at peak periods. And here we are opening 2 new data centres between now and Christmas time. Already, the data centres are guzzling up more power than the whole of the entire rural Ireland. This is pure bloody madness. I mean, what exactly are they playing at here? I mean, what is the EU playing at themselves, coming up with all these petty ideas? I mean, people are screwed to the very floor, trying to pay bills, and here we are coming up with the taxes on fish and chips and stuff like that there, and pizzas. This is all pure nonsense. I mean, we have failed to address the crisis of the energy crisis that was developing anyway, and that's nothing new. They've taken fossil fuel plants out of circulation without putting anything comparable in their place. And they had a couple of spare capacity systems last Christmas time that were fit to bring on stream. But that they have nothing now, only the hope that we don't use too much electricity between 5 and 7. You got to the point you wonder, should we take out the bloody electricity altogether and put in a generator?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, a lot of
the
chat
kind
about
of
that.
costs that we're being asked to pay are totally unacceptable, because there is a remedy around this by not getting those data centres on stream.
Yeah.
Because if they do come on stream, there could be 250,000 houses out of power at times.
You should just cap it for now. I mean, those power companies are in
But they can do
huge
that.
profit.
They can do that. The public shouldn't be asked to do that, because I mean our contribution to it is very, very small. I mean, the data centres and the power that they are burning is absolutely frightening. And when you see the energy regulators and all the authorities falling out about who's to blame, it is a blame game. Something very far wrong in the way the whole system has been managed and handled in the last 10 years, because the one thing that is growing right across Ireland is a demand for everything, because our population is growing. And I think electricity demand is growing at between 5 and 6% a year. But the power needed is not growing at any rate. In fact, it has gone backwards. We'll be forced to open up numbers of facilities that are already in the process of being shut down. So we're going back to fossil fuels all over again. Next year, apparently, we might have gas, but we could have major problems, because the situation is going to get worse before it gets any better. And governments have sat there for the last 10 years on their hands, given that we had a system that needed a huge upgrade, and it hasn't happened. But what else is new in Ireland?
We're left now in a very precarious situation.
We're left in a dreadful situation. We'll go to some of the content from this week's paper, Eamon. Mm-hmm. Neil's copper art making its mark.
Neil, there was a story I worked on there last week. It came out of the back. We had a story a number of weeks ago when I was interviewing Mary Kennedy for her Moving West TV programme when they were down in Brindle. But I followed that up. Actually, we went down and had a chat with Neil Ferry, who's down there, and it's now when you hear the name Neil Ferry, you'd think that's a local through and through. I suppose he's local through and through his father, but he was born and reared in Dublin, Ballyfermot, Dublin, and he's a true blue Dublin, and the way he sounds anyway. But since he moved up here, he's over at Jack Morris. That's that iconic wee thatched cottage on the way around Bloody Foreland, into Brindle. That is like the kind of heritage centre. But he's a very fine copper craft artist, and he gets out these wee pieces, and he does all these lovely family crests and GA club crests and land, not so much landscapes like churches, and he makes all these one-off pieces, really unique, really lovely pieces. So it was just nice to chat to him about how he got into that. He had a background in construction work. That's what he did before he moved to Donegal. His dad, ironically, even though he's from Brindle, still lives in Dublin. Mm-hmm. He lives and works up there, and he's a visitor back to see them. But Neil made the move a number of years ago, so it was nice to follow up to see how he found that transition and how he settled into life and the Gaeltacht and all of that. It's a fascinating fella, but his artwork is
very good.
You see the nice bits. There's a lovely spread of the copper art in the paper too.
And is it a business that's doing well for him?
The way he kind of puts it is that it started off as a hobby, and now he's sort of transitioning it into a business. And I think ultimately he'd like to be able to make his pieces, and also maybe be able to teach it to others as well. So I think he could certainly make a go of it. When you see the standard of what he does, it looks really, really nice. I mean, you think of these landmark occasions like a wedding anniversary, a GA club anniversary. They make fantastic gifts because you can personalise them and all that. So it was good to chat
to us, Declan, about Swilly Park being reopened after a lot of work out.
Yeah, it was closed for a year there. They'd done a major redevelopment on the pitch, major drainage works, and laid a new grass pitch there. A fine looking facility. I've seen it a few times before Saturday, and they're back playing on it now again. So they had an official reopening. It was an opportunity for a bit of a fun day as well, family fun day, and 90,000 euros spent on the pitch there, and well spent. So I mean, they're hoping that's the end of the days where they're getting bogged down in one of the corners, as one of the former players was saying to me on Saturday. Going into a tackle, going down in one corner, you were lucky. You might need somebody to pull you out.
I've been there for a lot of that over the years.
Yeah.
Trying to photograph it on late Sunday evenings.
Yeah. So and
that's a great development.
They always had a great atmosphere.
Councillor Ian McGarvey, I suppose, was there, and it was fitting that he was there too, as one of the special guest to do the official opening, along with 3 current League of Ireland players, Ronan Boyce, Barry McNamee and Keith Curran.
Do you see that as the start of Ian's campaign for the next local elections?
Well, he certainly was among his own on Saturday, on a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon. It was, I mean, they couldn't.
Perfect,
It was perfect. It was perfect for it, and we're lovely.
He had been to a wedding earlier on in the day in Tirconaill, so he must have got a helicopter back to Solly Park.
Yeah, he fitted it all in. No bother to Ian at 92 years of
Anyway,
age.
we have numbers of stories. It's just like everything else. For Melton, there's 4 or 5 stories this week. So we'd hope that every family in the parish buys at least 2 copies, because you'd all want to read it at the same time. A bronze statue for Bill Campbell's on the front page. Bill Campbell won the Nobel Prize in 2015. Will not be coming back, but there's a magnificent life-size bronze statue, and that's being unveiled by Paul Ferreter. Paul Ferreter made it. The 2 daughters.
Yeah, renowned sculptor and renowned.
The 2 daughters are coming here, the Betsy and Jennifer, and other members of the extended family circle. And there's going to be a live link from his home in Andover in Massachusetts. It's about 20 miles west of Boston.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a live link, and that'll be interesting because he'll be fit to see what's going on and talk. There's Dermot Scott, well-known figure in EU circles, born in Melton. He is the compere or the MC for the evening show. Sam McConkey is there, as well as others. The 25-strong Strabane Brass Band, and a renowned Scottish fiddler called Paul Anderson has written a new score in his honour, and Martin McKinley is going to be there, and many others. Denise Blake. It's going to be a big day, and so on Saturday, the 1st of October, next Saturday week at 2 in the afternoon. Let's hope the weather stays fine there, because it's a very fitting tribute and a well-deserving tribute to one of Ireland's finest sons.
No 2 ways about that, yeah.
Yeah, there's no 2 ways about that there.
I mean, what he's done to improve the lives of so many millions is just unbelievable.
In contrast to that, we're also on the front page doing a piece about the Donegal Ukraine numbers to top 6% in the coming days and weeks. And in a more sinister development, pro-Russian graffiti was once again painted on roads at 3 locations around Milford on Monday night, at times between 11 and midnight. And the one on the Church Road happened between 11:15 and 11:30. So that was a very, very short time frame. Anyway, we have a list of the 2835, the areas that have them all.
Yeah.
The most recent one, Letterkenny, Bundoran, way up the Inishowen, of course, the big area. But there's a huge demand here. We're saying that the provision of accommodation is seen as a huge effort by a number of key players in the business, and their humanitarian spirit is particularly laudable. However, the accommodation comes at quite the cost to the public purse, and some of the country's biggest names will benefit from government funding for refugees. And the figure is already probably beyond 100 million at this point. There's going to be a very large amount of money in the budget, that's one thing for sure, for the Ukrainian cause.
Yeah.
After that, we move on to Dennis Gallagher, who retired.
Aye, Dennis Gallagher, former colleague again up in Glenveigh when I worked up there in the early 2000s. Dennis from Devlin. Bit of debate whether he's on the Creasle side of Devlin or the Falcarra side of Devlin, but Dennis has had a long career in Glenveigh, best part of 45 years. Started out when it became a national park. When the estate was sold over by Henry McElhenney, and ultimately he gave away the castle and the gardens later. But Dennis would have seen every nearly square inch of that park on the fencing crew. He was with the deer stalking crew. He ended up in his sort of later years as a charge hand, and then working in around the car park. And he's a very easygoing, affable fella, so he was a good man to be down there, you know, because he might be meeting visitors when they'd be out of hours or early in the mornings or whatever. And that was it. So he retired, and they had a gathering up at the park there the last day with his family and all his colleagues, wishing him all the best.
We'll also move on, because we're just about out of time. Red Hugh's 420th commemoration in Valladolid. Brendan Rowan has been reporting on that. Yeah, we have a little bit in the paper on it as well. And it's not over yet, is it?
Well, that's it. The first few days of the main event have all taken place now. They had the parade through Valladolid or whatever it's called.
Valladolid,
I think. Brendan is spearheading that 420 group, which is commemorating the 420th anniversary of his death. There is plans then for more celebrations back here in Donegal. I think it's in late October. When
Did they not hope to have the officials of the council and the Tirconaill and all that?
Of the Spanish County Council or the
I
Donegal County Council?
haven't heard from the Tirconaill around Rosnakill this week. I don't know is he away or not.
Does he know
I don't know is he asked.
Does he know the mayor of whatever it is there,
Valladolid?
Would he be in contact with them?
My remediation delay is totally unacceptable. This is Martin McDermott. He is the chair of the defective blocks
Redress
committee. Redress, yeah. And he is expressing serious reservations about the delays, not only by the Department of Housing, but by the Donegal County Council. And, you know, as we head into another winter of probably bad weather, a lot of those very badly damaged homes are going to suffer further deterioration. And Martin has done a very frank interview with the paper, and he is just pointing out that the backlog of applications in Lufford in urgent need of a resolution is quite frightening, and it seems to be that there's a stalemate and too many families are living in fear of their homes falling down. And he says very explicitly, I am not going to deny that there is a huge problem, and apart from much more urgency by the Council and the Department of Housing, we also need a political dynamic to drive the campaign forward in a meaningful way, and that is just not happening, he states. But that's in the Tribune and a whole lot more this week. Listen to the podcast. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.